66 million years ago, Earth seemed immortal, a vast, untamed world that appeared destined to last forever. No one could have imagined it. Yet while life carried on as usual, the planet was living through its final 24 hours. Life dominated every corner of the world, from the densest jungles to the deepest oceans. Giants walked across lands that would one day become continents, nations, and even modern cities. Beneath the surface of the oceans, colossal predators patrolled the depths, unseen by almost everything above, and high above them, impossible creatures ruled the skies, masters of the air for millions of years. It was a savage world, a dangerous world, yet it was also a stable world, governed by the same rhythms for ages beyond memory. Or at least, that's how it seemed. Because something had already begun to change, far beyond anything that lived on Earth could see. There were still 24 hours left. 24 hours before the end of an era that seemed destined to last forever. And while Earth continued turning peacefully through space, no one could see what was approaching from the darkness beyond the stars. Millions of kilometers away, something was moving through the darkness, silent, relentless, and with every passing second, it was getting closer. But on Earth, everything seemed exactly the same. Rivers still flowed, forests still thrived, life carried on, unaware. The great herds continued their ancient migrations, following paths they had traveled for countless generations. Predators still hunted in the shadows, stalking their prey as they had done for millions of years. To every living creature, it seemed like an ordinary day, peaceful, familiar, completely normal, until something strange happened, something subtle, yet impossible for nature to ignore. The sounds began to fade, one by one. The voices of the prehistoric world started to disappear. The primitive birds stopped singing, and for a moment, the forest felt unnaturally empty. Even the insects seemed to vanish, as if countless tiny lives had suddenly chosen to hide. Something was changing, not all at once, but enough for the world to begin noticing. The first herds began to move, not in panic, but with a strange urgency no one could explain. They were not fleeing from a predator. The danger they sensed was something far greater. They were escaping something they could not understand, something no living creature had ever faced before. Even the oceans began to respond, as though the planet itself could feel what was coming. Creatures from the deep started rising toward the surface, abandoning waters they had inhabited for ages. The skies looked different, beautiful perhaps, but undeniably unfamiliar. Even the sun seemed strange, dimmer, warmer, as if the world itself was changing. Nature was sending warnings. Across forests, coastlines, oceans, and skies, the signs were everywhere. But no one could understand them. The warnings were clear, only in hindsight. Meanwhile, far beyond Earth's horizon, the real story was still unfolding. It was larger than any creature that had ever lived, a mountain of rock crossing the void of space. And it was traveling at a speed almost impossible to imagine, faster than anything life on Earth had ever known. Yet from the surface of the planet, no one could see it, no one even knew it existed. Life continued as it always had. Rivers flowed, forests thrived, and the ancient world seemed untouched by danger. Yet something still unsettled the animals, a feeling they couldn't understand but could no longer ignore. It was impossible to explain, a silent warning carried through the world itself, as if Nature had sensed something hidden, something vast and rapidly approaching, something still beyond the horizon, beyond sight, beyond understanding. But in the depths of space, the countdown continued, unstoppable, unforgiving. And with every passing second, it moved closer to Earth, closer to its destiny. It was no longer a possibility, no longer a threat. It was a certainty, a destiny already in motion, racing silently through the darkness toward a world that never saw it coming. Meanwhile, on Earth, life carried on, calm, ordinary, completely unaware of what awaited. But the sky was beginning to change. Slowly at first, almost too subtly to notice. It wasn't a storm. There were no violent winds, no thunder, only a growing sense that something was wrong. It was something far more difficult to describe, a feeling that seemed to hang in the air itself. The migrations continued, day after day. More animals kept moving toward the unknown, and it wasn't just one species. Across the ancient world, countless creatures were on the move, as if an invisible force were guiding them, urging them forward, away from something they could not see. And far beyond the earth, the countdown continued, quietly carrying an entire world toward extinction. The distance kept shrinking. With every passing moment, the end of an entire world drew closer. Every second erased thousands of kilometers. Yet nothing in the universe could slow it down. Its course could no longer be changed. The collision had already become inevitable. Earth's gravity was beginning to take hold, pulling the object closer, faster, and faster still. Small fragments started breaking away, the first signs that the final approach had begun. The atmosphere was getting closer, Shahar, a thin layer of air separating two very different worlds. Far below, life continued as always, feeding, hunting, migrating, completely unaware of its fate. No one knew this would be one of the last sunsets, one of the last peaceful evenings Earth would ever see. The countdown was almost over. The final moments were now measured in hours, not days. And then, the sky changed forever. The first chapter of the disaster had begun. Then it appeared, a blazing object crossing the heavens, brighter than anything the world had ever seen. The night became brighter than day. Shadows danced across the earth as the sky itself seemed to ignite. Thousands of kilometers of atmosphere burst into flames. A river of fire now stretched across the planet's sky. Even the oceans reflected the inferno. From horizon to horizon, the world glowed beneath a burning sky. For the first time, the animals looked up. Instinct told them something was wrong, though none could understand what. But it was already too late. The disaster was no longer approaching. It had arrived. The impact was now inevitable. Nothing on Earth could stop what was about to happen. Below lay a region we now know as Yucatán, peaceful, beautiful, completely unaware of its fate. The final seconds had begun. A countdown measured not in hours, but in heartbeats. And then it happened. In a single instant, the age of the dinosaurs came to an end. The energy unleashed was beyond comprehension, more powerful than billions of nuclear bombs detonating at once. In mere seconds, Earth's surface began to vaporize. Rock, water, and land vanished into a growing inferno. A wound was carved into the planet, a scar so immense it would remain visible for millions of years. Entire mountains were hurled into the sky. Fragments of Earth itself were thrown beyond the atmosphere. Then the shock wave began its journey. racing outward across the planet faster than anything alive could escape. Nothing could stop it. Forests, coastlines, and entire ecosystems vanished in its path. The oceans rose in fury. Walls of water swept across the world, erasing everything before them. Soon the continents began to burn. Fire spread across the horizon as burning debris rained from the sky. Then darkness came. Dust and ash climbed into the atmosphere, blocking the light of the sun. And with that, the age of the dinosaurs began to fade. A world that had ruled for millions of years was dying. The impact lasted only moments, but the consequences were only beginning. The planet would never be the same again. Across the planet, fires raged beyond the horizon. Entire forests disappeared beneath walls of flame. Ash and dust climbed higher and higher into the atmosphere. Soon, they would cover the entire world. The sunlight began to fade. Day after day, the sky grew darker and colder. Temperatures dropped across the planet. The warm world of the dinosaurs was disappearing. Plants began to die, and with them the vast food chains that supported life on Earth. Species that had survived for millions of years suddenly faced a future they could not survive. Many would not survive the weeks that followed. Others would never see another season. Entire species vanished forever, leaving behind only fossils and silent traces of their existence. The age of dinosaurs was coming to an end. One of Earth's greatest chapters was closing. For more than 160 million years, they ruled the Earth. Then, in what seemed like an instant, their world was gone. Yet even today, the evidence remains hidden beneath the Earth, waiting to tell its story. A scar left behind by the day everything changed. A reminder of nature's immense power. And if you had stood there 66 million years ago, this is what you would have seen. This was the last day of the dinosaurs. The day one world ended and another began.